Please enjoy this feature presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. This program is rated for all audiences.
The World According to Elmer is sponsored by CrookedRiverRadio.com. Crooked River Radio is an internet radio station that is live 24/7 playing top 40 hits from the 60s through the 80s. You can find us on Live 365, Simple Radio, Roku, Radio Garden, and even Alexa, as well as our website. Come on and join us on the Crooked River. Welcome aboard. We're headed for the World According to Elmer, with hosts Jerry Sorensen and Pat Morrow. Don't worry, you'll enjoy it there. Better buckle in and enjoy the ride. Here come our hosts now.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's good to have you here on Crooked River Radio for the World According to Elmer. I'm Jerry Sorensen, KG8RRY, and with us tonight is our Elmer, Mr. Pat Morrow, and he is innate. Oh, quit partying. N8OQP. Good evening. How are you?
I wish I partied that much.
I heard you were partying the other night on the holiday.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. That show was pretty off the wall.
It's gotten here on Crooked River to where there's a lot of these special programs anymore.
I like them. Don't you like them?
I do love them. I think they're great. And the one that you guys have done for a while now, the name of it escapes me because I'm old, but you guys have done that one show forever and ever, it seems like, and that one is my favorite.
Which one is that?
The one where you guys just sit around, just visit about the week?
Oh, the Sunday show, you mean?
Yeah,
that's the radioactive.
Yeah, I think when you get people together and they just start talking, I think it's great. Yeah, it's always interesting to see where everything goes.
The concept of that was actually instilled in me by the people at where I started, and you knew the owner of Earl.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's what started me on the concept of that show, and it does pretty well. We get listeners. I had just the other night watching the show. There was like 9 people. Between all the formats,
yeah, that's great.
Between all the formats and that, it wasn't too bad. I'd like to have 139, but
that so much the better, so much the better. But look, these things take time. But you get a group of people together and you get them started talking about any topic. Just pick the topic, and it will be amazing. Some of the things that you hear come out of their pie hole.
And you are really amazed by the way it degenerates sometimes.
Exactly.
It can go.
It's kind of lofty there for a little while, doesn't it? And then it kind of goes down.
And then it just kind of drifts down, and then all of a sudden it goes into a death spiral.
Exactly right. Which is how any group. Did you ever play that game when you were we were all kids? We weren't. I don't think we continued to play it when we became teenagers, but we would all sit around in a circle, and you'd whisper a secret, and the first person to the second person would whisper a secret, and then you'd wait to see what the secret was when it got all the way back around the room, back through the circle.
Yeah, I've sat in classes when we've done that before. Actually, to be honest about it, I think I did when we first got into the Skywarn programs and we were doing actual training and everything like that, I did an experiment with that once, and it was amusing how it turned out. What I did was I said, pass it on, 1/4 of an inch of rain and 1/4 inch hail. And what ended up coming out at the end was not even close.
It is incredible. And it just gets twisted a little bit each and every time. I worked at a job where one of the things that the people that worked for this company had to do is they had to observe and make a report. That was part of their work. And it was interesting because if I would show an 8-second clip of an event, and I would just show it to 20 people as an example, and then I would have them write a report based upon the 8-second clip that they just saw, I would get 20 totally different versions of what that 8 seconds was. I mean, people would have different colors of, they said this guy was wearing different clothing. He was wearing different colors. There was a vehicle involved. The vehicle was every shade of the rainbow by the time all the reports got put back in. And everybody would surmise what they thought was occurring. So instead of reporting on what they saw, they were reporting on what they think they saw. And it was really a fascinating study.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be it. You know, when you do the public service thing, and especially when you go into law enforcement and that, where you've got to take a situation and know what's in it, you know,
Yes.
you really have to train yourself in order to do that. I had a guy that lived across from me that this was like back in the 70s, that he lived across from us. His friend backed out and backed into a car and then took off. Well, the police come and they want to know what, you know, I told them I saw it. And they started asking me about it. And I'm telling you, I didn't know what to, you know, I couldn't. I remember, the one thing that I remember was running down to the corner and seeing this butthead put his glasses on. And I knew that they were wire rim glasses. Well, I see the car over there a couple of days later, and so I called the police, and they come and sat and watched the car until the guy got in it to drive off, and they ended up calling me down for like a lineup, and I said they had 5 different people there in a room, and I said, could you ask number 5 if he wears glasses? And they said, well, we're not going to ask him. We'll just give them all something to read. And he took them glasses. He had the glasses put away, and they handed him that paper, and he went. And that was him. No doubt it was him.
You knew him by the glasses.
You know, you always catch that 1 second frame in your head where you see something like that.
That is great. What a great story.
Thank you.
You know, anytime
I have a million of them.
somebody boogers up somebody else's car and drives away, he deserves to get caught.
Yeah,
I don't know if you were on the bands this weekend, but boy, did we have a contest. It was the Worldwide DX contest.
Let me tell you.
Bands were smoking.
I got in, I think it was Thursday night. And I thought, well, I'll just tell you, I haven't been on anywhere voice-wise for ages.
And this was your dance.
I'll get in there and I'll tune around a little bit. So I 80 meters, I tuned down to 40. I thought, well, people have said 10 meters has been open. I want to see if they're right. I tuned down to, I usually start at 28,500 and drift down to about 28.3. I start tuning and I hear this CQ from Curacao, CQ, the PJ2 slash, he had a PJ2 slash, well, I know PJ2 because I know the guy. That guy was a member of our club from like long ago.
Really?
And so I knew his call, and he's got a station down there. So I went back to the guy. And mind you, the last time that I did any kind of stuff on 10 meters was the last band opening we had. And that's been, what, 10 or 11 years ago?
It's been a while.
So I hadn't talked out of the States that whole time. Well, I get down, and I hear this guy, and he's talking to somebody else, and then he goes to somebody else. It took me about 5 tries, and I finally got him. And I logged the call and everything, he tells me, he says, Jay, he says, you sound pretty good down here. He says, I'm 5'9" as a compliment. And he says, that's the compliment for you. So it was great.
That is awesome. And did he know who you were?
No, he wasn't the guy he wasn't PJ2. He was somebody running the station.
So it was a contest station.
Yeah, it was a contest station that's down
there. Well, there were a bunch of them out there. In fact, I've got one here. I sent about 20 QSL cards out this morning in the mail. Now, I got this one here to go. I was looking at this tonight. This one goes to Germany. This is going to go to station DR0W. And the guy's name is, of all things, Manfred. You know, that just makes sense, right? It's going to Germany. But he came in here on 7150. So he was a sideband contact. And I would have been on the Swan 700 CX at the time. So I would have been at about give or take probably about 300 watts, and but he came in here at a solid 5.9 into Massillon, Ohio, and in fact he sounded local. I was real surprised when I found out he was in Germany.
Well,
But it was amazing all the countries that were on the air, Pat.
I've said it forever, 100 watts on a wire.
That'll pretty much do it. And especially when in a contest, people say to me, I got asked this question this last week. I had a young man that just joined the hobby about 6 months ago. He said to me, how come I can hear stations and I can talk to stations that are overseas during these contests, but it doesn't seem like I can get them on other weekends? Is there a propagation difference? Or, I mean, how does this get to where you can do so well during a contest? And I had to explain to him, it has nothing to do with your equipment. It has nothing to do with their equipment. It has something to do with propagation. But more than anything, during a contest, people are using these.
Exactly.
And they're listening closely, even for signals that might at first be considered faint, because they want your call sign in their log. And so they're listening, and you're the seller at that point, in essence, because you're selling your call sign to the receiver. And he wants that call sign in his log, and so he's more likely to hear you during a contest than he is at any other time.
Well, when we do training and that, some of the stuff that we talk about, and that's one of them, where the best time to make contacts is, even if you're not going to participate, is a flipping contest.
Absolutely.
A contest day. You've got the band probably quadruples people. Each band probably quadruples as far as listening ears. And, to not do that, you're passing up a grand opportunity. And if you just decide you're going to participate, there's no telling what you might get out of it. Heck, you might take a state's, you might win your state. You never know.
Hey, let me ask you an ethical question. So
I'm
going to
I don't know
take you
about
from
these
an
ethics
Elmering
things.
question to an ethical Elmering question. Here's my question. If you're talking, let's say that you're on 7160, and there's a guy that's been parked on there, and he's running the show, and he can't hear you, but you're listening along, and you're waiting for your turn to try to get through to this guy, and somebody else comes on, and he calls out to this gentleman that is parked on that spot, and he makes contact. When he's done, you realize you can make contact with him because he's just as if he's sitting right at the radio with you. Is it ethical to steal the frequency and go ahead and make your contact with the guy that you know you can reach, even though he wasn't the original guy on the frequency?
I wouldn't do it.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because he may not be be able to hear you, but he can hear the other guy, and that's going to disturb him. I don't think I'd do it. I do know if I can't get a hold of somebody, and there's somebody that I know on that particular frequency, like it happened with this guy from Curacao. I immediately picked up my phone. This stuff happens, I got two guys I usually call. And I knew the one wasn't home, but I knew the other one probably was, because he's an old guy like we are. So I called him on the phone. I said, "Hey, Jack," I said, "tune you to get on your radio and 487. I said, the weird frequency is the Curaçao's in there. Next thing I know, 5 minutes later, he's in there trying to get a hold of the guy, and he can't hear him. Now, I gave him about 3 or 4 shots, and that's normal for what I would normally do. But I would have keyed up and said, "Hey, Jack, you want me to tell him you're here?" Or something to that effect. And I would have expected that from Jack if he got him. In fact, Jack's done that for me before.
So that's
you can always relay.
Good way to go ahead and handle that situation. Have somebody relay for you. I like that. That's a good answer, by the way, because I was going to stump you with that one.
Yeah, it takes a little bit to stump me.
You're not going to believe what came in this week.
Oh, no. Not more QSO cards. Holy crap! Who are you talking to that's sending you all these?
Get this one. Oh, every night, trust me. KG4KTL is a nice Tennessee boy, and I noticed that he's got both flags on here. God bless anybody that puts the flag of the United States of America on their QSL card. They have my respect, and it was good to talk to him. He is on I thought it was kind of interesting. Here he is from Henderson, Tennessee, and he was on a Tentec, which Tentec radios, for those that
I've
don't
always
know.
liked the look of those radios.
You did or didn't?
I do. I've
You
always
like
liked that they were modernistic before modernistic was popular.
That particular radio company has a very, very loyal following. The people that love Tentecs love their Tentecs. And it stands for Tennessee Technology, which I thought was kind of funny when the operator was from Henderson, Tennessee. This is one of the most colorful cards. This is probably one of the best done card I've ever seen. Has all the continents in different colors, which I think is very cool. This is N9EP, and I had a nice visit with him on CW. This was one evening in September, and he was running a doublet that night, and I had a great signal here into Ohio. And this last one I'll share with you, this is another nice colorful card, and this is from Canada. In fact, Ontario, Canada. This is a gentleman by the name of Paul Craig, and he is a retired medical doctor. And I had a nice visit with him one night and sent him a QSL card, and he reciprocated. And it was nice to talk to him. He has everything radio-wise. What attracted me to his signal, and people actually do, at least I can, and if I can, that tells me everybody can, because there's nothing special about me. But as I was listening, I was attracted to his signal because the audio was so warm and it was so clear, and the signal was strong. It had a strength behind it, and so I knew that he was probably operating a tube type radio. And sure enough, he was. He was on the Heathkit 102, and that's a great radio.
Yeah,
great and he had a monster signal, this guy, and he sounded so good. The audio was just exceptional on his rig, and that's what attracted me to Dr. Paul. And so it was nice to speak to you, Dr. Paul. He has said that he will listen into the show, so I know that you'll hear this sooner or later, and I appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate the QSL card. Very fine business indeed, Dr. Paul.
Look what I was just handed.
A lot of good. What do you got there?
The orange fruit slices. I love these things. My granddaughter just walked in. She says, "Here, take these."
I thought you were going to show me a QSL card.
Sorry, Jer.
It's okay. Hey, this weekend we've got some new ham radio friends. We had a ham fest at the Canton Akron Airport at the MAPS Air Museum. The MAPS is a military airplane museum in it's either in Stark County or Summit County or on the line. I'm not sure which it is, but at any rate, it's a great place to go. If you've never had a chance to go visit MAPS, do so. Take your kids. Your kids will love it. It is World War II, and even more than that. There's stuff there from the Vietnamese War, Korea, World War I, I think. There's some stuff there from that. A lot of airplanes. It just was a great time. And we had a ham fest there, which was very cool. And we had an exam session. Now we have two brand new technicians, and we have two technicians that upgraded to general. And this all took place on Sunday morning at the airport. I have some pictures from the ham fest. Were you able to get a hold of those, Pat? Or
Yep, we got them. Let me.
Got it? Well, let's look at a couple of them here. Show the folks what the ham fest looked like.
Let me get there.
There we go. That nice big American flag at the one end of the hangar. The Hamfest actually took place in the hangar, and you can see that is actually a tri-wing. I know that they call those planes bi-wing when there were two. Now I guess they're tri-wing. I don't know, but at any rate, that's a keeper there over to the left. But you can see some of the folks that have their tables set up there, and we've got some airplanes interspersed in the hangar.
I'm looking for a few of the people that I know.
You see anybody there you recognize?
Well, that guy in that yellow or that lime green shirt down here may be somebody I know. Almost looks like Frank. But no, I don't see anybody else. At least
I think the gentleman in the khaki, that they're over in the center with the white hair, I think that's W8AU, if I'm right. That would be Perry from the Maslin Club, but I could be mistaken. I think that's him, though. That's a side of him I'm not used to seeing. So at any rate, but yeah, this is the beginning here. You'll see some more of the tables as we move forward.
Ready to go to the next one?
Yeah, let's do. Okay, you can see how expansive the ceiling is. This is actually an airplane hangar that we're in, and it was very well attended, as you can tell.
Yeah,
This was about 9 o'clock in the morning.
I'll tell you a story about it after we're done looking at the pictures.
Okay.
I have spies everywhere.
You have spies? Okay, it's all good then. All right, let's move forward. There's one of the planes outside. There was a whole bunch of them, about 20 airplanes out there that I had a chance to stop and look at, and they are amazing.
Yeah, I've never been down here. I've been to the Akron-Canton Airport a lot, but I've never really went to the museum.
Go to maps. If you've not been back there, it's around on the other side. It's off of Wales Road, 241. So it's on the back side of the airport.
Ready?
And if you look over to the right in the very back of that picture, that is the actually the radar that you're seeing all the way to the far right of the picture, the radar for the airport.
Sweet.
Okay. There's some gear. I see a Drake. I did not see any ham. I saw 2 swans is all. And of course, for the folks that don't know, I'm a swan collector, and I've got more swans than the Hamfest had. I only saw the 2. One was a 350, and I saw it went pretty early. These are Drakes that I'm looking at there. Maybe the one down on the end is a Heathkit. I can't tell. Anyway, tons of radios, and those are mobiles up front. Most of the mobile radios that I saw, they were in the 12 to 25 watt variety. So they would have been good radios in their days, and you could still use that if you were beginning.
Ah, my old buddy Scott.
Couple twin fellas, yeah.
Scott Yonley's in the center. He's I'm not sure if this is this actually looks like the Scott or not Scott.
Yeah, from the
Tom Sly. Tom Sly. Is that who that is on the left there?
Yeah.
It looks like him.
The region did represent.
And I know Scott's in the center. I think this is Tom Sly. I don't know who this other kid is.
That's Evan Rankel from the Mass.
Oh, that's Evan? Man, he's grown up.
He has, yeah, he's 21 now, so he's not a kid anymore. You probably, last time you saw him, I'll bet he was 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I didn't recognize him.
He's still making contact, still a ham radio guy. Once you are, you always are.
He's a good kid. He's always been a good kid.
He is a great guy. When I first started, nobody knew me, and Evan was the only person that would talk to me on 2 meters. So he got a special place in my heart, and I've liked Evan ever since. He's a good kid. Well, everybody to me is a kid, so don't be offended. There's some more of the, I took that picture out a second-story window. That was we were up in the room where the testing was taking place, and so I snapped a few photographs from up in the air looking down on the planes.
That's nice.
And those are only 3 or 4 of the planes, but the whole lot out there is full of these airplanes that have been restored.
That's nice. I'm going to have to get over there and look at some of that stuff.
Oh, that's good stuff. You can see inside the radios are still inside those planes. Okay. Again, and there's some more of the planes, and that is the radar for the Canton Akron Airport that you're seeing up there. The thing just spins continuously. It never stops.
Yeah, they better hope it don't.
Yes, they better hope it don't. That's well
I
put.
think that's the last one.
That might be the last one. I had another one that was of the whole Hamfest all at once. One of those big shots you take that goes from one side all the way to the other, but it was too big to fit in there. So anyway, if you didn't have a chance to come to the Hamfest, now you've had a chance to see what it was all about. It was a great time. There was a lot of gear taken out of there that day. And I don't know, it was just a pleasure to be there. It was nice
welcome
to
back
see
to
the
the
guys.
channel. I'm Chuck, KK6USY, Ham
And,
Radio Adventures.
Hang on a second, I hit the wrong button.
We're going to be right back to him here in just a second. So,
the story I was going to tell you, several people and some of my officers from the club went down there.
That's
and
good.
As you know, we're 501c3, so we tend to collect a bunch of radios we've had donations all over the place.
Well, sure.
And there's a couple of guys that have taken it on to actually sell it, to take it to Hamfest and peddle it off and that. And what happened, they took a bunch of gear down there. And the one guy told me, he says, it started out kind of slow. He says, we hardly sold anything. He says, but right in about the middle of the festa, we started selling a thing or two here and there. And I guess we had a couple of older oscilloscopes. Those went. There was some HTs that went. And then they were getting ready to pack it up. And then all of a sudden, the bigger stuff started selling. And by the end of the fest, they had 4 people coming up to the truck wanting to know what was left, and they sold 4 big pieces of gear right out from the truck.
You go.
Right off the back of the truck.
That's awesome.
There was quite a good fest for us. We made quite a bit. As far as it paid for more than paid for the table, and actually, it'll help us survive. Through the rest of what's going on here.
That's right.
And
for those who don't know, they're joining us maybe for the first or second time that you've watched the program. Pat is the president of the Cuyahoga Falls Club, and so most of the ham clubs at this point are hurting for money because if it was like our club down here, we went for months and months and months, Pat, with no meeting whatsoever.
Well, we're there too. All our meetings have been on Zoom.
Yeah.
And
so this is big money. I mean, any money is good.
It looks like it's going to be after the first of the year before we start going back to face again.
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
We finally started up, but still the attendance is not there like it was before.
We did a survey here. In fact, it ended yesterday on, I don't know the results of it yet, but we were trying to decide if we're going to have a Christmas party or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't got the results from it yet, but from what I understand, our club's got about 100 people in it. There's about 35 that are active all the time, and they're the doers. And from what I understand, middle of last week, there was already 18, and the survey had been out for 18 responses, and the survey had been out for 2 days. So I think people are getting antsy. I really do.
Yeah.
And I'll be glad to see it all pick back up again. Our Hamfest is actually scheduled for April 9th of next year, 2022.
So you've got time.
And we're going to get. I'm watching stuff like this fest Saturday or Sunday. Tells me that it's not going to be so bad. People are starting to get antsy to go to these things again.
It was very well attended this last weekend.
I kind of think that it's going to probably be that way. The hall we've got's pretty good. It's really open spaces and stuff, and it should be all right. We may just
that'll be outstanding. And you know what? Hamfests have done a service to our community, the ham community. And the service that I've noticed is it brings prices back in line. During that period of time when no new radios were being sold during much of 2020, and the Hamfests were not taking place any longer, I noticed that people began to mark their gear up on sites like eBay. In fact, they were marking their gear up. I felt,
you could almost go buy new.
a person can charge whatever they want, so I'm not gonna attach morality to it and say they were gouging their neighbors, but there were some greatly inflated prices
I
on
believe
old
that.
used gear. That's all I'll say about that. And what happens when the Hamfest started up again, that gear came back down in price that you're seeing used to used gear prices. So the Hamfests, whether or not you realize it, have a big impact on what people are paying for their gear.
They do that.
It just keeps everybody honest when the Hamfest is going on for some reason.
Well, yeah, it's sell to the highest bidder, you know.
That's it. Well, it's supply and demand is what it is. And
That's
boy,
about
there
it.
was a lot of supply and there was a lot of demand on Sunday morning too, because there was a lot of gear that walked out of that place. And here you're talking about selling radios out the back of the truck. That's awesome. That's a
I'm
good
looking myself. I'm trying to find a 220 rig. I've been pricing them out. The prices on some of this stuff that
220 gear is scarce, my friends. It's scarce. Try to find it too. I have a TY.
you can buy new. There's a Revelus I think for about $100.50.
I bought a TYT, and this is actually the model. I'm not joking you, and I'm not pulling your leg. It's the TYT 90,000, as in 90000. That's the actual model number of this radio, and it's my 220 radio. It is it's an FM only radio, and it comes with a little manual written in Chinglish. You know what Chinglish is? Yeah. It's ununderstandable, and you have to figure out the radio for yourself because you'll get no help whatsoever.
If you like Star Wars and if you're good at distinguishing what Yoda says, you'll be good reading those.
There you go. The Chinglish will just be perfect for you. You won't have any trouble with your new TYT 90,000, but that's my 220 rig.
Did you buy it new?
It's brand new, but it's one of those that I know all too well that when you buy a radio, that particular type of radio, that is a temporary rig. That rig is not going to be here for any length of time. What's going to happen one of these days is it's going to quit working like they all do. And Jerry's going to pick that thing up and drop it into the circular file, and away it will go. And that's what you do with those types of radios.
Have you ever talked to anybody on it yet?
Yeah,
I'm curious.
Yeah, 2 or 3 people.
What did they?
There are actually some people on 220, believe it or not. And where my son lives out in California, 2 meters is dead. There's no one on 2 meters where he lives. But on 1.25 meters, which is 220 megahertz, you can't shoehorn your way in. Every repeater, every club repeater, everything out there where he lives in California is all on 220.
Really?
It is the 2 meters of their area as compared to here.
Well, I have heard. I've got several friends that have told me they went to a couple of the 220 repeaters. I think there's one in like Norton.
There's one in Norton. I can hear it. I can hit it fully quiet. There is one in Medina.
You may be hearing these guys then if you ever listen up there. KB8 PRK is up there. And
that I'm a little bit crackly going into because I'm running a J-pole here at home, a 220 J-pole.
Yeah.
And of course, a J-pole has no gain. For those who don't know, it's a great, well-loved antenna. Probably one of the first antennas that most ham radio operators make themselves. And we've done a show, I think, on J-poles.
Yep.
But at any rate, if there's any drawback to a J-pole, it's the fact that it has no gain. And so Medina is just a little too far from Massillon. Plus, if you look at a topographical map, it's all uphill from here. So it's not possible here to have your antenna too high because you're pretty much broadcast or sending a signal straight into the ground as you aim from Massillon up to Medina.
Yeah.
But we're talking about putting a 220 repeater up down here in Stark County. So we'll have something a little closer to home as we move forward. But that's because people have been showing interest in it. And so as long as there's interest, we'll proceed.
Well, I've been told not to get any of the cheap ones, being the $100 or less radios for 220, because they all sound like junk. That's what this one friend of mine's told me.
I don't know. This one apparently sounds, oh, I can understand, and they tell me they can understand me, but this definitely fits into that category. This is not a radio you're going to stick with.
This other, the other ones I'm looking at, there's one for about 100.5. There's some Bridgestone or whatever. I don't know even know if that's the right name for them. That's the only one DX Engineering handles, and it's about 240. I don't know that I want to spend that much money for something I may or may not use.
Hey, Kenwood has a nice Tri-Band HT. It'll only set you back $550.
Oh, thanks. Like I really want that.
You're going to go out and grab a couple of those. I can tell.
That's right. Give me out the credit card. Not.
We were talking on Sunday morning about all the things that technicians can do, and that's what kind of spurred me on to this topic for the show. People don't realize everything a technician can do, and there are some things technicians can do that I don't really understand too much about, because to be frank with everybody, I'm not a big UHF guy, and I have never been a big UHF guy. And but it might interest you to know the technicians can even get on 40 meters and 80 meters, not with their voice, but with their code key. So there are things that technicians can do that maybe you don't know they can do. And so that was the topic for tonight's program. And I don't know if we're going to be able to fit the whole piece in here that I sent you, Pat. Well, let's watch a little bit of it and see what this fella tells us the technicians can.
You know, we know the ownership of the station, so we can let it slide. We'll see what happens.
We're going to let it roll. Well, there's things you'll find that will make you laugh, because there's some things that he doesn't know that you'll know instantly. And I just chuckled when he said.
Yeah, I started watching it. There was a couple of things he said that
because some of it he doesn't have a good understanding of, but the overall points that he makes are very good, and so I think you'll enjoy it.
All right, let's listen or watch. We'll be back on the other side. You're listening to The World According to Elmer on Crooked River.
Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Chuck, KK6USY, Ham Radio Adventures. Now, this week we're going to do as the YouTubers group here, we're going to do videos on what a technician can do with their license. Now, I looked over YouTube just to get some ideas. Didn't find a whole lot of what they could do. I saw a lot of things that showed you how to get your technician's license, stuff like that. So today in this video, I'm going to show you antennas you can use, radios that you can use, and whatever else I can come up with. So just to help the technicians along. And one thing I will say, if you don't have your technician's license yet, and you're going to take the test, study for your general also. When I took my test, I didn't even study for the general. I studied a lot for the tech. I took the general test and only missed it by 6 questions without studying. So those two tests are very similar. So if you're doing good on the tech, go ahead and study that general. Let's get on with the show, and we'll show you what we've got today. Thanks a lot for being here. This is what I found for the technician class, privileges U.S. amateur from the ARRL, and effective date is March 5 of 2012. I'm pretty sure everything is still up to date here. If anybody can find a newer one, please post it down in the comments. So on UHF, you have a 1500 watt PEP maximum. Most people can't do that anyhow, so it doesn't really matter. If you get 50 watts out, you're going to be lucky. You got 23 centimeters, 33 centimeters, and 70 centimeters. I've really never done. Maybe I've done 70 a few times. Haven't done a whole lot. But on 70 here, it says not available north of the line A. If anybody knows what that is, it says near the Canadian border. Please put it in the comments. I'm not sure exactly what they're talking about there, but you have from 430 to 450. And in both those sections, you can do sideband, AM, FM, and TV, and also CW and digital. Then we move down to VHF. Same thing here again, 1500 watts PEP maximum. 1.25 meter. Here's your 222 to 225. Basically, all your privileges are SSB, AM, FM, TV, CW, and digital on that one also. Now, 2 meters starts looking a little different. From 144 to 144.1 is CW only. Then up to from 144.1 to 148, it shows sideband, AM, FM, TV, CW, and digital. Then on 6 meter, now 6 meter is one of their bands that you have a lot of also. 2 meter and 7. Actually, all of these you have a lot of things you can do. There just won't be a whole lot of people there. 2 meter sideband, depends on where you're at. You might have some good luck. 6 meter, when the band's in for 6 meter, it's really good. You can, 5 watts, you can talk a long ways. And the same thing, it's 50.0 to 50.1, CW only. Then from 50.1 to 54 megahertz, you got sideband, AM, FM, TV, CW, and digital. Okay, here on HF, if you look at it, you have a 200 watts PEP maximum. Now, here's where it gets a little different. 10 meter is one of the 10 meters here is one of the few bands you actually have some good stuff you can do as far as phone. So from 28 to 28.3, you can do CW, RIDI, and data. From 28.3 to 28.5, you can do SSB and CW. Now, when 10 meters open, you get a 10 meter dipole up, you will make some contacts. And almost every radio will do 10 meter. Now, if you're looking at new radios to buy, I would suggest, just to keep your options open, buy at least a 10 meter to 6 meter. Or 160 to 6, excuse me. 160 to 6. That way you have that option of 6 meter, and eventually the band's going to get better and things are going to get better. So up here on 15, 40, and 80, you have privileges also. CW only though. It's 21.025 to 21.2. Then on 40, it is 70.025 or 7.025 to 7.125. And then on 80, you get 3.525 to 3.6. So that's your frequencies. I will put a link to this in my description below. I also put is in the description below videos that I have that would, well, almost any video I've made will do a tech, but I'll put the ones that mostly pertain to the tech license. Then if you're going to get your antennas up in the air, you're going to need some kind of a pole. Now, this pole here I got off at eBay. I think it was about $7 to $14 a piece. I bought a bunch of them, and that's what I used for my Moxon antenna. This one here was about $35. It's a better antenna, or a better pole. It's a Go Tour Gold Light, 7.2 meter. And this one, I think this was Soda Beams. May not be Soda Beams. I have two of these. One's Soda Beams, one's another brand. And then I also have one like this that's black. It's a DX Commander. They're all about the same. They'll get you about 30 feet. Okay. These are Handy Talkies, HTs. And I have them, the first
I've got
two
both
here
of them.
are Bale Things. Those would be the cheapest way to get into ham radio. They're pretty decent little radios.
I
Not
can't
the
say
best,
as I
but they don't
recommend
cost a lot.
HDs.
I mean, you can get them for like, I think the one on the left I paid $25 for. And then moving up, the next one there is a FT60 from Yaesu. Super durable radio. It's a little older, very reliable. Good. A lot of people really love those. They're pretty sturdy radio. And then the next one up, and this to me is the easiest of all the little Yaesus or any of these radios to program from the front panel. It's a FT70D. It does 2 meters, 70 centimeters, just like the first three. But this one also does digital. And it's the 60 and the 70, they're about $150 usually. So not a bad price for a good quality radio. Okay, and then the last one here, let me move the camera. The last one here is the FT3D. Sometimes it says FT3DR. I don't know why there's difference. That's the top of the line of Yaesu's brands. Another brand that would be very close to Kenwood makes one. They're both APRS. I forget the number on the Kenwood. I'll look it up and I'll put it in captions up above. But that one's getting expensive, and I forget exactly. I got this thing for Christmas one year. They had a huge discount on it, and it was vastly less than the FT2D, so I pulled the trigger. All right, let's look at a few other things here. Now, these are antennas for the HTs. These are the two on the left are, I bought these extra. These are just a little better than the stock antennas usually. This one's a Nagoya, I think, for the Baofengs. This one's a Diamond. And then these are all the stock. I think these are all for the Yaesus. I'm not sure. I got one too many though. And these are just the stock rubber duckies. Okay. A couple options I bought for my Baofeng were these right here. Now you see the hole in this one's pretty small, and I read online someplace that making the hole bigger, you get a little better volume out of these.
Yeah, actually, I'm the one who posted.
They're not great, but they work.
Took my advice.
When I bought my FT60, it came with a charger like this, or one you could plug in the side. If you do buy the FT70, the FT3D, buy the chargers for those like this, because they charge faster. Nice thing about the Baofengs though, they come with it. And that's for the Baofengs, however you call it. And for the Baofengs, I did buy extra batteries for them. Now this antenna, I showed it to you earlier, or sometime in this video. This is a J-pole, and you get on a summit, you know, anywhere 4,000, 6,000 feet, however high you can get, and you use that antenna on one of your little masts that I showed you, and get it up about 15, 20 feet, and you'll be surprised how well your HT will do. So for 2 meters and 70 centimeters, they're line of sight. So if you get up high and you're looking down on a valley, you can go a long ways with those. Okay, the first thing you're looking at right there is a bunch of adapters you're going to need eventually. The more adapters you have, the more likely things are going to work for you. So these all are B and C's. This is a kit. This goes in my Alacraft kit, my KX2. This one here, when you look at that, has the end there and the end there. That will set up for an antenna like this. And this is a J-pole. I've got a video on that also, but it makes it easier when you're doing your HTs, your handy talkies. Some of these will make it easier for you to hook them up. Okay, so now from left to right, QRP guys, in-fed, half-wave. And that will do, I think is it 80 through 10, or 80 through 6 maybe. Depends on if you have a tuner. It will with the KX2. Well, the KX2 won't do 6. Okay, and then you have, this is a video that my very first video I ever produced. This is a dipole, but it's a linked dipole, which it's for 20 meters and 40 meters. You have these little clips, here they are here together. You clip or unclip them to make it resonate on the band that you want, 20 or 40. this antenna here, this is the wire for my Moxon, my 20-meter Moxon antenna. That's a little more advanced when you get your HF license, and you can get on 20 meter unless you do CW. Now, if you're a new tech that does CW, that might be a great
No,
antenna.
20
Now,
meters is
let me
off
move
limits.
this over. Okay, this is L&R Precision. It's a magnetic loop. I wouldn't really, for a new ham, probably not, but later you might want it. They have their own little niche. They're kind of expensive for a new ham. Okay, what I'm going to do is show you 3 radios that I feel are entry level, that are really good deals. If you're going to
This
look
is
at
an
brand new
interesting
radios, the
choice for an
advantages to brand new,
entry-level
you get a
radio.
warranty, and usually the shipping is for free. I never seen the shipping wasn't free. So the
I
first
just got
one,
into
if
it,
you
and
want-
I've got one.
If you want to do just straight
Yeah, you've
160
just
to
been in
6,
this hobby, what, 2
probably
days
the
now?
best deal you can do right here is the ICOM 7300. Now I'll probably catch some ribbon from guys in the YouTube group because I'm a Yaesu guy. I'll admit it. But when I bought my 991A, if I was looking for not to do 2 meters and 70 centimeters, I probably
Apparently,
would have
young
bought this
people
radio.
have more money
Same with
than
the
I did
ICOMs. If
when
you
I
want to
started.
do 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and I'm talking past just FM, AM,
That's a
but you
good
want to do
radio right here, the
sideband also,
7100.
you only have really 2 choices that are affordable. ICOM makes a 9700. That's way up in price for most new hams. This one is your cheapest one made now. $899, $899.95, and then $100 mail-in rebate first. So for $800, you can buy this radio. It doesn't have a tuner, and really it doesn't have a scope, a band scope. It also is 2 pieces. You can buy a tuner for it, but then you'll have 3
It actually
pieces.
does have a band scope, and the band
But
scope
if you're into
operates pretty
D-Star,
well.
this is the way to go. It does D-Star. Now, so $800. So the 991A, $150. So what?
There's another beginner radio.
You do the math. $300 or so. What the 991 offers, and the reason I went with it, is this nice scope here. And I'll show you a scope on some FM. It also has a built-in tuner. It's all one piece. Probably isn't any heavier than the 7100 total weight. But to me, if you're going to take it out on a parks on the air or anything like that, or camping with you, whatever, it's just easier. It's one piece, and it has everything built in. Now the tuner is only a 3-to-1. It's not gonna tune up everything. All right, I almost forgot this one. This is the FT 891 from Yaesu. It does 160 through 6. The doesn't have a tuner.
That's a good digital
It's a
radio right
one-piece
there.
radio, but the face comes off, so you can mount that separately, and then you can mount the body someplace else if you're mobile. This is probably one of the best mobile radios out that's still available.
That's the
new.
one they had to compete
There's
with
old
the
ones that you
ICOM
could get also,
7100.
but as far we're just talking new radios here. The difference between this and the 7300 would be the 7300 for $300 and some dollars, $350 more gets you a tuner also, but you can buy a tuner for less than that. Plus the 7300 has the great scope there. This has a scope. It's not very good, but it works. So that's just another choice there for any ham, not just new hams. Now this is an elk log periodic, 2 meter, 70 centimeter. Great antenna
Okay,
for
we can pass this part up.
the new hams.
He basically spends the rest of the video
Tech
talking
license.
about this particular antenna.
Now this is my 2 meter antenna that I built. I have a
So I guess as far as the radios are concerned, which wasn't the point of why I wanted to show this video, but as far as the radios are concerned, you know, you gave me some advice when I started out as a technician. You advised me to buy a mobile radio and a power supply and use the mobile radio as my base station, which is what I did. And I think that has a way greater, a way bigger appeal for the average technician as opposed to getting a handy talkie. People that get handy talkies don't realize, but they're greatly limiting their ability to communicate. Most of those handy talkies are 5 watts or less, and some of them are not very good quality, and they're hard to hear.
About 85 to 90% of anybody that's in radio now has probably got, if they're running a base station, it's probably a mobile on a power supply.
Yes.
Even that 7300, which I run, that takes a power supply to run it. It could actually be run mobile. You know, these are all pretty much all mobile radios, unless you go into some of the more expensive stuff that's actually got the built-in power supplies, but you're going to pay $4,000 or $5,000 for that. Everybody does it that way. Don't limit yourself by trying to put an HT on your base, but you can get a mobile radio you can get a dual bander or a tri-bander for a couple $100 and be able to talk all over the place, 6, 2, 440, whatever.
And I had a guy talking to me Sunday morning, and he's just starting out, and he said, well, what if I get a handy talkie and I go ahead and I hook it up to an external antenna? And I told him, I said, you can do that. You can take your handy talkie and you can get a doohickey, as I call them, and you can definitely hook that handy talkie up to an external antenna, but you've still got your wattage problem, and you're not going to get more than about 5 watts out of a handy talkie. And you're much better. I know that in my case, based upon your advice, Pat, I went out and got a Yaesu 2980, which is a mobile radio that has 80 watts. So it's got a good amount of wattage, and it'll talk all over. And I installed that radio with a power supply and put an external antenna up on the roof of the house. And I was in business. And so I was on the air for probably, everything included, maybe $225. And I still, to this day, use that 2 meter for all the local networks and whatnot. And the radio performs flawlessly. I was glad that I made that decision. One of the things I would have done differently had I known what I know now is I would have learned code quicker. And he kind of passed over code on the video, and he said, well, on 10 meters where you can use your microphone, you can talk phone. That's what that means. Talking phone on the bands is the same as using your microphone to talk with your voice. That's what that means. So he passed over CW. He said, no, there's some good stuff over here with the phone. I would argue that the good stuff is on CW. And even as a technician, if you take the time to learn CW, you can go on to 40 meters and 80 meters. And all the places that I'm on every night on CW, you can access with a technician's license. I tend to stay around 7.030, and I go up as high as about 7.75. And all of that is accessible to you as a technician if you know code. So there's no reason for you not to be on HF if you're a technician, if you'll take the time to learn code.
Exactly.
And so that's my big encouragement.
The other thing that he mentioned that kind of, I thought to myself, how long did this guy study?
Yeah.
And when he mentioned the A line, do you know what the A line is?
Yes, I do. That's the line that is supposedly protecting Canada from the United States, and he did not know what that was.
And it's about 4 miles inland from Lake Erie. So anybody that's or within 4 miles of Lake Erie should really not be using anything as far as radio.
And then there sits the entire city of Cleveland.
Exactly,
all the
right.
city
The
of
mistake.
Cleveland on the air.
The mistake on the lake, whatever you want to call it. And all those radios up there, yeah, that's pretty much a dead issue. But I know for a fact that's on the test. That's on the
It is on the test, and I thought the same thing when I heard him say, if anybody knows what that is, put it in the notes down below. I thought, didn't you take your test? Must have missed that question, huh?
Gotta wonder.
So at any rate, what can you do if you're a technician? You can do a lot if you're a technician.
And he really didn't get into the digital bands or anything like that. That is capable. In fact, 6 and 10 meters, actually, there's portions of that when you can catch it at the right time. There is actually FT8 there. I hit FT8 the other day on 28, was down about 28.3. I heard it. Wasn't able to get it tuned in quick enough, and that disappeared. But there was some there. You know, there's even CW down in that part of the band.
Sure there is. And 6 meters, we have a 6-meter net every night on the air here in Stark County. It's an AM net, and that's kind of fun for people who enjoy AM radio. One of these days we'll have to do a show on AM radio and the difference between AM as a mode versus sideband. And they're not the same thing. And you'll be interested in that if you've never had an opportunity to be on AM. It's a whole different world out there, trust me. So there's a lot you can do with 6 meters, and I'm glad that he did bring that up. Some of the bands up above, again, I have to confess ignorance. Myself, I'm not a UHF guy, and there really isn't a lot of activity where I live on UHF. Now, in your area, maybe UHF is the hot spot on the dial. So seek out and find what it is in your area that will allow you to experiment in the most different areas of this great hobby. I saw a great video the other day, and I would recommend this to anybody, but it's just a guy that made one up and put it on YouTube. And it was like, I forget the name of it, but the gist of it was, these are the 500 things you could do this weekend on ham radio. And his point was, once you start experimenting with all these different modes and these different bands, and it's endless, Pat. The stuff you can do with ham radio is absolutely endless.
And the cool part is it doesn't have to end with just 1 or 2 days. This is a hobby that will go on the rest of your life if you let it.
Yes. Absolutely right.
I've had people left and right tell me how much amateur radio changed their lives and how boring it was before and how great it is now. You want to talk to somebody, pick up the microphone. You want to take and go out and help somebody run a race, go out there and take your HT with you. You want to talk digital? You want to talk to your friends down at the Red Cross on digital, or you want to get on a DV or I can't think of the name of it. Help me out here.
DMR?
DMR repeater.
Yep.
You want to use Motorola's version of that, D-Star. It's all there. Doesn't take nothing, hardly anything to get into it. A couple $100, you do it. And
you want to talk to the ISS, the space station?
Yep.
You can do it.
Or satellites. Satellites. We had Mel Vi come in to the club presentation last weekend. Marvelous presentation. She showed how you could talk, how it actually operates, what you have to keep in mind as far as the Doppler shifts, what antennas you can use and get away with. You can use what they call an egg beater. And you ever see an egg beater with,
I have seen an egg beater antenna. Yes, I have.
If you look at the egg beater that you use on your mixer, it's similar to that. Except it's turned upside down and has a piece of coax coming from it. And you talk on that. He puts 2 of these up. They don't work real well. As far as if you want to put something like that on the roof, they don't work real well. But as far as, because there's too much obstructions between towers and everything like that, I guess, from what he was saying. But to go out to field day or go out in the middle of a field somewhere and set those things up, you'll talk about every satellite up there.
Isn't that amazing?
And it doesn't take nothing to do it.
One of these days, ham radio people here on Earth will be talking to the ham radio people on Mars.
Yep, or in heaven.
Now that would be a call I want to be there for.
I'm waiting for that day.
Well, I appreciate your time, Pat. Pat is our Elmer, Pat Morrow, and good to have you here on The World According to Elmer again this week, Pat. We appreciate you very much.
It's always fun. I'm always glad to be here.
And I'm glad that you're here too. Thank you for being here again this week. We will see you again next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock here on the Crooked River for The World According to Elmer. I'm Jerry. That's Pat. We'll see you next week. 73, everyone.
Have a good weekend. Have a good week.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation of the Crooked River Radio Network. See you again soon.